Hello again, just to remind you that you can follow us both in French and in English. So we had 3 sequences. The first one dedicated to how Orange and Orange Middle East integrated Gen AI as part of its global strategy and the impacts on the ecosystem. We also had a panel discussion about the development of AI in Africa in general. With Nathalie, we discussed sustainable development to assess the impacts, because beyond the business, beyond the positive impacts, there are also a number of major challenges which we're facing in the field of sustainable development. With Valérie, we looked at AI and ethics, how ethics can be integrated as part of the development of a more responsible AI, and we're now going to talk about AI and cybersecurity, for which I'm now going to invite Vincent and Ndiata, who are Chief Data Security Officer at Orange Innovation and IT and Infrastructure Manager for the EMEA zone. Gentlemen, can you hear me? Absolutely, very well. Great, thanks for being with us. Just to remind you, thousands of people are watching this online and are finding all of this very interesting, particularly the aspects of AI and security. AI is synonymous with operational efficiency, with an enhanced and improved customer experience, and it also allows us to address automation. But beyond that, there are a number of challenges, and one of the major challenges we have is AI and security. Is AI going to expose us to more security problems, or can AI be used to prevent difficulties? I'll start with Ndiata. What is cybersecurity in this new technological ecosystem that's increasingly AI-based? Thanks, Youssoufa. And thanks to all of you who are joining us online. I know that part of you are in Africa, and others are elsewhere in the world. Thanks for the invitation. You talked about an important word. You talked about pervasive, ambient. AI is going to be everywhere, all over. It's going to improve productivity and efficiency. First point, it's ambient. And that means it produces huge amounts of data. The growth is almost exponential across the world. We're now counting things in zettabytes. There was tera, there was hexa, now it's xerabytes. So vast amounts of data. What, 24 zeros? Something like that. It's 10 to the power of 21 or something. So what we're also noting is that there are increasing number of attacks. Each player is subjected to around 12 attacks per minute. So it's huge and it's growing fast. So there are 2 trends. There's an increasing volume of data because AI is ambient. And on the other hand, there's a rise in attacks. It's like you have a tool that serves cyber criminals and the same sort of tool that you can use to defend yourself. So there's an opposition of the 2. And that's what we're facing today. How can AI help? It might be another discussion. But to answer your question, Youssoufa, at least I've given you the context. Thank you, Ndiata. What can AI contribute in real terms? Well, in real terms, I'd say that there are a number of different aspects when looking at what AI, what purpose it can serve. It can serve to describe things in the past. It can serve for diagnosis purposes. It can serve to predict. This is what is going to happen next. And it can also serve to prescribe actions. What do I need to do? So all of these different solutions will need to be leveraged, and they're increasingly powerful because the data can be processed. The amount of data allows us to understand things better, to detect things better, and to prevent. So to me, I'd say that AI can really help us to tackle issues of cybersecurity. When there are attacks, you can anticipate certain attacks, you can respond to attacks, you can better protect. And it's what we do at Orange. It's part of our job, because we handle vast amounts of data from our customers. So there are a number of processes and mechanisms through which AI can be leveraged. So, for instance, if you want to protect, what data do you want to protect? What type of data requires added security? How can you protect that data and comply with rules and regulations? Africa is very diverse. There's a large number of countries, so a large number of regulations. And here, AI can also be used to make sure we are compliant. So these are the different dimensions that exist. Protect yourself against outside attacks, but then also to organize security within the data we manipulate in-house. And how do we comply with local regulation? AI, through all of these AI technologies. Thank you, Ndiata. So we have a multi-service strategy at Orange. We have a pretty comprehensive offering. There's Orange Money for financial services. Today, an increased use of digital solutions. And customers expect us to deliver. Perhaps I could now move on. We could now move on to Vincent. Are these really dangerous connections that we're making? AI is a recent technology. As with any recent technology, we need to be careful about how we use it. We need to use it ethically and responsibly in whatever field. If you look at cybersecurity, there are implications for development. If you're pessimistic, you will say that AI is dangerous, that you can use AI to create malware, to facilitate attacks on systems. The AI can actually do it for me if I'm not very good. All of this existed 30 years ago already. There were tools with which people could create their own little malware or virus. So, if you want to use AI to do that, you need to unblock the safeguards in AI, because AI it has built-in safeguards. But AI can also serve as a tool to facilitate the detection of security issues, notably by looking at the low noise, the weak signals that are hidden in the masses of data we receive. Ndiata was talking about the number of attacks, and AI can help to sort through all of these masses of data. But to achieve that, we need to be using a trusted AI. And that is very important. Thank you, Vincent. As Ndiata was saying, and you too, there are huge amounts of data that we need to process. And you were talking about trust and controlled use. Could you say more? Sure. Let me take two very concrete examples that everyone can relate to. Would you let an AI autonomously run a nuclear power station? I think you'd say no. You can't use AI on its own, uncontrolled, to perform high-risk tasks. You need trust. You need to trust that AI, for which you need to know it well, you need to test it, and you need to do that on a regular basis. It's a continuous circle. And perhaps the best solution is to have your own model, that you can train yourself with data that is representative of what you are doing. And that creates a much more accurate model. And if we look at what Natalie was saying about more frugal types of AI, it would be more frugal because it would be less energy intensive. And that's important for the environment. So you really need to work on the trusted aspect. AI is there to help. It's there to provide support in terms of response time, in terms of proactivity. It's going to allow us to make huge progress. It can be very interesting in detecting weak signals and correlating all of the information that we can retrieve in order to establish a risk scenario, for instance. And that allows us to protect ourselves quicker and better. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vincent. Back to Ndiata. You were talking earlier about the regulatory framework, the fact that it's important, and Vincent also said that it was important, that one should not be afraid of AI, but consider it as an opportunity that allows us to make progress. My question to you, Ndiata, is what are the skills that we really need to address these issues in cybersecurity? Do we already have that talent at Orange? Of course we do. If you look at the history of Orange as a telco, and then a provider of digital services, Orange is a business that knows these issues well already. We've been working on these for a long time. What has changed is the volume of data and the technologies involved. But these are skills that we have. We are upskilling our people. Someone talked earlier about trial and testing to accelerate upskilling. Skills are changing, but these are skills that we're always going to need. So there's the data that we've always been processing. There are just higher volumes of data, and there are just new skill sets. So level one is really the data centers where we store all of that. As I said, regulation sometimes requires data to be stored within the country. Concern. Some other types of data can be saved elsewhere. So there's a first level of skills there. Building data centers to store data, and then all of the skills that are required to secure that data. And then there's a second layer. We manage the data. What technology can you use to protect it? Or to go out there and pick the data you need? And how do you do that without creating security gaps? What we have are a whole set of tests that allow us to ascertain that the technologies we use guarantee the security of our data. So all of these tests are conducted by engineers. All of the developments are made by engineers. So in these first two steps, we need skills that are diverse. I talked about level one with the data centers, where the data is stored, the infrastructure that is used for storage and processing of the data, and then second layer, the protection or the protection of the data, protected when it moves outwards, and then creating also in-house security rules within the company and training people, educating people about data security and cybersecurity. That needs to be done systematically within Orange, and it is. Everyone needs to be made aware of the implications. If every employee is informed about the risks, you are in a company where you can better protect things. So these are the three levels of skills. So store the data in infrastructure, and then the most visible layer, of course, is the development of applications that either protect internally or help to distribute the data safely. Those are the various skill sets that can be required across the different layers of cybersecurity. Thank you, Ndiata. And there again, we can see that these are key skills. And it's a very concrete and tangible way to do things with an AI system that needs to remain dynamic. And we talked a lot about education, about awareness, about acculturation, even be it just the basics of AI, and how that helps to enhance security. Perhaps Vincent would like to pick up on that. We're talking about AI in cybersecurity. Is there really a risk there for analysts and experts? No, it's not a risk as such, because as I just said, AI needs to be seen as an assistant, something that can support us in transforming the way we work, but it's not necessarily a threat to our job. What's important is education and acculturation. That's where the challenge lies. I need to learn how to use AI as part of my work. I need to generate the best prompts to obtain the best results. So AI is something that needs to be tamed, but it does not threaten our jobs if we are adequately trained. And I think you're going to be talking about training and education in another panel discussion, but all of this needs to work to support all of our employees, and we also need to use aspects of change management. But I'd say that through training, AI can become our best friend. That's how you need to see things. And I started by talking about trust and control. Using AI as an assistant means that the final decision is taken by a human being. When a problem is detected, a number of actions can be undertaken, but it's up to us to decide which one. What AI suggests. But then, no, I'm going to take part of how we can resolve the issue or fine-tune a prompt to obtain a better result. It won't affect our skill set or our expertise. And it can also help us to be more relevant. Thank you, Vincent. I think you said it very aptly. AI needs to be our best friend. We talked a lot this morning about the challenges the continent faces and the fact that AI can be an ally, a friend, can help us to address all of these issues of cybersecurity. So we mustn't be afraid of AI because maybe we're going to be giving over our power to people with the wrong intentions. So, gentlemen, we still have a lot of people watching online, so it really shows how interested people are. I would also like to ask you, if you were to each say a few words in conclusion of the sequence, what would your key takeaways be? Let's start with Ndiata. I think I'm going to pick up on what Vincent just said, and he said it again and again. You need to take AI for what it is. There are huge opportunities for the continent, but you need to pay attention to data protection through the use of a trusted AI. That's important. That's key, because when there is trust, there is a friendship. AI is an ally. And Orange needs to do everything it takes to make sure it can be trusted. And that can help to create value, to generate value on the African continent and boost efficiency in every sector of the economy. And so that's what I would have to say. Vincent? I'll make it brief. Be curious. Don't hesitate. There's no cybersecurity without curiosity. Okay, well, thanks. So key takeaways. Let's make AI our best friend. Let's not be afraid, and let's go for it. Let's go out there and discover. Well, thank you. Thanks to both of you for these really useful insights that are going to help us to make progress. Let's now move on to our Q&A session. We've received lots of questions. Unfortunately, we won't be able to answer them all, but here are a few. The first one, which is for both of you, is how can you strengthen cybersecurity and prevent cyber attacks through AI? You already started answering that, but maybe you'd like to add to that, Ndiata and then Vincent? Well, I was talking about the 4 steps that ensure that the more data you have, the more weak signals you can detect. So AI techniques or technologies, there are a great many of them, in Gen AI particularly, can identify, can diagnose, can prevent, and then can prescribe action. So if you have the right algorithms, what you will see is that real time, you need to be able to react very, very quickly. All of these elements together will allow us to guarantee security. Yeah, great analysis. What I would add is that before AI, we worked a lot on securing data applications. We need to continue to do that, naturally. But AI can serve as an assistant to identify places or aspects where things can be improved based on what has been identified. AI will really be the icing on the cake, allowing us to be even better, to get better at these things. Thank you. Many thanks to both of you. So the second question for Vincent. For the protection of personal information, what solutions are made available to our customers or the ecosystem more generally?
La protection des données, c'est quelque chose d'important qui est pris très au sérieux chez Orange.
Data protection is taken very seriously at Orange.
Le stockage de la donnée.
It starts with storage. Storing data, protecting the data.
On a des use cases. Après, si je rebondis un petit peu sur l'utilisation
We have use cases
de la donnée.
And processing data in AI, for instance, you need to minimize that data. Only using it for the basic need, not anything beyond. Needs to be sometimes masked, not used as is. So securing the data, and even before the arrival of AI, this applied as well. Did you want to add something? Well, you said pretty much everything I was going to say. What's important in AI, as I mentioned, when data, where we're storing data in the data centers, well, you have data centers that are called public, as it were. You have data centers that are shared, in fact. And then you have private data centers. So Orange has made, when Orange makes an AI choice, where does the data go? Where is it stored? That all has to be under control. They have to be, the data has to be stored in areas that we control 100%. That's important. That underpins what Vincent just said. So there are a lot of questions about the cloud and infrastructure, be it public cloud, be it private cloud. So you have to just make sure that we're in control of that information. Private. Okay. Thank you very much for that. That is a good segue. And Ndiata, you have the almost non-existence of a cloud in Africa. So, and at any rate, the clouds would not be on the African continent. So does that mean that our data is truly secure if in Paris we're going to move to cloud for the African region? Well, I would start by answering Orange data is secure, for sure. Based on what we just explained, and this does fit, when we compare the African continent to, say, the US, Asia, Europe, and you have private clouds versus public clouds, and the whole concept there is different. On the continent, we don't have a lot of public clouds. If you look, there are in South Africa. So that's the first point then. Second point, there are two types of solutions in the cloud. There's a private cloud, meaning the operator or supplier has their own digital services, their own data centers, their own infrastructures, and they control the entire chain. So from the floor to the ceiling. So that's the type of data center where we store the data. Now, as regards to the cloud, outside a country, off a continent, well, there's certain data that's not sensitive or critical that can go into these solutions. So there's a hierarchical application for this that complies with the legislation, regulation. Orange hasn't defined this. In fact, Orange complies with the regulations in countries regarding private data protection. So today, what we're seeing is a movement in the region. We're seeing increasing stakeholders, public cloud providers are ratcheting up these mini clouds, as it were, that can be hosted pretty much anywhere. So this can represent an opportunity. Okay, you wouldn't move the critical data that's in the private cloud, but you would have this additional data hosted in the countries on these mini public clouds. So we can start considering saying, okay, the non-critical data can go elsewhere, but the critical data would stay in the country. And we could use these mini clouds. We're looking at tons of different solutions here, and this is emerging, and we can round that out with some of the existing solutions. Private cloud. Thank you, Ndiata. Vincent, did you want to add something there regarding the location of cloud storage? I could add to what Ndiata said. When use a public cloud, we apply very strict security rules in Orange, and we have our own rules that are binding and very constrained, very limiting. They're monitored, and access is controlled as well. So we control the location, where the data is placed. We control the type of data that is used, detected. And if there's ever any sort of error or crash, we are on top of everything. There are very specific rules about data protection because data is a resource, data is wealth, and it has to be protected. And AI then helps us detect any type of breaches or any type of potential problems. So we have very strict rules that we apply in Orange on data use, data storage, data protection. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Ndiata. It's true that Orange is a connectivity operator, even beyond data and AI. We work hard at reassuring our users in the security of their data. That is one of our main priorities that we've always applied. So now with the emergence of AI, we see the impact that we can have here. We can go so much further in securing data, and we can continue to drive the confidence amongst our clients and our operators. This morning we heard to be a reference, a spearheading operator in selling and marketing and inclusion for AI on the African continent, and also serving the African market. Well, I think this layer of security will reassure our users. It's a very important element in our vision. So Emily told us about confidence and sustainable development. Along with security, we'll make sure that our achievements in AI won't hold anyone back, and will help us distinguish ourselves even more in our activity. Now, lastly, I might want to come back to a question for the two of you. It's a bit of a question mark that we have for the network, and folks are wondering, you were listening today, if they're not necessarily an Orange agent, and maybe you don't know that everything that Orange is doing, there's the security question, how Orange can support them and support the ecosystem. What would be your answer to that? How can Orange, as a partner, accompany, support the ecosystem to manage security questions or issues? And yes, sure. I would say it depends a bit about who asked the question, if it's a person asking the question for their country or for their own personal use. Let me start with someone wondering about their company, about their business, and how Orange can help. Well, I mentioned a certain number of points. I said you have data centers where we store the data, you have infrastructures where you store the data, and then you have services for hosting the data. We know how to do that. That's what we do. So then the question is how to host data. How we can help, for sure. And then security, in this setting, security is our thing. All the tools that we have and everything that we use to get results. Orange, we offer services. So for a company, we have a whole host of services to enable a company to have the security level that fits their needs, their uses, and their markets. So That's a question for a company. Right now, if it's for an individual, this is data protection, and that's critical. So we explained how Orange has ethics for data use, and how we're fully compliant with the regulations, legislation, also on the technology that we use, technology that we're developing on our own, technology that we're trialing out constantly to make sure that there aren't any security breaches. Now, this should reassure you we are protecting data, and then we have services as well, cybersecurity services that we offer on your computers, and services I talked about, say, for the businesses, their offers for individuals as well. Thank you, Ndiata. Vincent? What would be your comment regarding the ecosystem, how Orange can assist them, generally speaking, globally? Well, Orange does provide support, as Ndiata said, we protect computers, but we also have Orange Cloud, security for mobile phones, support there. A lot of services are out there in Orange, and many more are coming. We have a lot of innovation in Orange. Orange helps. And as Ndiata said, it's not hard. It's not obvious to answer how you can answer that question. You need to understand what the scope is, what the needs or expectations are of the people asking the question. But so the person who asked the question, they can give us some more info in the chat. And that can help us understand, because we've got a lot of experience in security and cybersecurity. Well, thank you to both of you. I think that going in the direction today, just the actual organization of this conference, the network and Orange Digital Center fits right in with that, as we're getting people used to things, training, awareness raising, educating. You've mentioned that a lot, both of you, to make AI our ally, our friend, a more selective element for us. And we saw today that this morning, there are subjects where the continent is a bit behind. But as regards the challenges of AI and the development for AI, I think we're in the starting blocks, and integrating security in addition to ethics, sustainable development as well that we talked about this morning. This can enable us to play our role and to have a very powerful impact. We've heard that a lot. Brola talked about inclusion. We heard about reducing inequalities. We've got some use cases in the pipeline that we'll be working a lot on. And these will help us address these issues regarding inclusion, all the while keeping everything secure. It should reassure people. As I said, Orange OMIA, we've got a lot of depth in our value propositions. We have a lot of financial services that are becoming increasingly diversified, so increasingly exposed, if you will, but AI can be a powerful ally to anticipate, to protect, to continue to reassure our clients as we have been from the very beginning. So, gentlemen, our session is coming to its conclusion on AI and security. Thank you very much for your information, shedding light on these topics for us, giving us clarification, giving us very reassuring elements, reassuring perhaps the skeptics among us. we consider AI as something scary that would make them more exposed. So I think they're reassured hearing you. And Orange, as a connectivity operator, has always taken steps to ensure security, to protect and reassure customers. We can go even further with this, with AI. So thank you again to both of you. Your messages to the out here, to our community out there listening. I do hope that these elements will be very useful for everyone connected. So thank you, everyone, and we will be back here in about 10 minutes for our last panel, talking about AI and employment. Ndiata and Vincent talked a lot about this. They talked a lot about training, and we'll see this even further in just a moment with our next and last session that will show us that AI also has an impact on the employment and training, and so this can help us to go even further. So thank you, and meet you here in about 10 minutes.